Luxurious as the new Mercedes-Benz C-Class is, are you one to think that it perhaps comes across as a bit too timid? Do the 2-litre turbo petrol and the 2.1-litre diesel engines not quite do it for you? If that's the case, Mercedes has just the version of the C-Class to get your pulse racing. Yes, you guessed right, it's the all-new C63. Except this time around, it's not called the C63 AMG. Under Mercedes' new naming system, it's become the Mercedes-AMG C63. But the name isn't the only departure from its predecessor. Out goes the 6.2-litre naturally aspirated V8 and in comes a 4-litre twin-turbo V8. Then this one also uses an electrically assisted power steering. It's an important change because the crisp character of the older hydraulic unit is pretty much part of the C63 legend. The older car was a legend. Could Mercedes have come up with something as special? We're in sunny Portugal to find out. Before I get into the thick of things, let's run through what makes the C63 look like a proper AMG. The biggest indicators, that would have to be the trio of large air ducts up front and the twin-blade grille. There are wider front wings too. While at the rear, the squared chrome tailpipes further make the C63 look the business. There's a subtle carbon fiber deck spoiler on the India-bound S model as well. To me, the C63 looks aggressive without looking over the top. Into the cabin then. So the C63's cabin is equally inviting. You get all the goodies that you get in a standard C-Class, including this high-resolution multimedia screen. But then what really makes it special is stuff like the carbon fiber trim on the center console or these sports seats. They look fantastic and you can also adjust bolstering on them, which is quite important. You also get this lovely flat bottom steering wheel, beautifully finished paddle shifts, and I think you'll agree with me, it's quite a nice sight to see a boost gauge between the Speedo and the Taco. And it gets almost everything you'd expect in terms of features too. It can also be had with a brilliant sounding Burmester audio system. Before you ask, no, the speakers are there to play music alone and not reproduce the sound of the engine as on the BMW M3. Mercedes didn't think its V8 needed any sound amplification. As mentioned before, the new C63 features a 4-litre twin-turbo. It's the engine that debuted on the Mercedes-AMG GT and one that will find application on many AMGs to come. The engine sits on dynamic mounts, features direct injection, and places its two turbos within the cylinder V for maximum responsiveness. The C63 is now available in two versions with different power outputs. The base C63, well, if you can call any C63 that, makes 469 bhp. The more powerful S version, the one I had with me, takes things up more than a notch. It makes 503 bhp and a massive 71 kgm of torque. Interestingly, Mercedes will only get the S version to India, which would give the C63 a big power advantage to the BMW M3. Channeling all the power to the rear wheels is AMG's 7-speed speed shift automatic gearbox. It provides 5 different driving modes, including a no-hold-barred race mode. Of course, to complement the engine, the C63 also gets a different suspension. It comes with 3 modes of its own, so there's lots of room to fine-tune the driving experience. But how does it all come together? In normal driving, the C63 doesn't feel all that different to the regular C-Class, which is a good thing because remember, this one rides on 19-inch wheels and also gets a sports suspension. But the other things which have left an impression are the sound and the steering wheel. The sound so far not gone too fast, yet there's been a constant bubble, which I love. And then there's the steering wheel. It's as direct and as quick as I remember of the old C63, so that's a very good thing as well. As we made our way through the Portuguese countryside and speeds increased, my fondness for the car just kept growing. There's massive thrust right through the gears, and the good thing is because of the turbo, you don't really need to rev the taillights out of this car to get to its best. The thing is, you will like to rev this car because of the way it sounds. For every 1000 RPM, it gets ever more dramatic. The few chances that I've had to take it to say about 7000 RPM is just built into this full-bodied, full-throated growl. It almost sounds like a NASCAR racer at that time. The oral drama is courtesy a secondary flap in the exhaust system that opens to provide greater volume. Mercedes' engineers say they wanted to retain the emotional sound of the old C63. I think they've nailed that bit. But the C63 doesn't only sound spectacular, it is fantastic around the bends. For something that weighs over 1700 kgs, the C63 is damn agile. There's absolutely no inertia in the way it goes about changing direction, and expectantly, grip levels are awesome, so you can carry lots of speed into corners. But to really have us experience the best of the C63 S, Mercedes very kindly organized for some track time at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. While I don't know if I pronounced that right, what I can tell you is it's one special racetrack. It's 4.6 kilometers of long straights, flowing corners and elevation changes. Just the place to let loose in the C63 S. At this point, you should know the C63 S comes with an electronic locking rear differential that's there to maintain maximum traction. In expert hands, it lets you do this. Driving on track just revealed the wild side of the car. With the 3-stage ESP set to sport, the C63 is a hooligan and a car that's easy to get sideways. I was just grinning under the balaclava there. But if serious lap times are what you seek, the C63 will excite you too. It punches out of corners, is beautifully balanced and has great poise just about everywhere. The C63 S I drove also came with the optional carbon ceramic brakes. They ran fade-free and offered superb stopping power. But if there's one thing that did catch my attention, it was the gearbox. Right at the very limit, it's not as alert or responsive to tugs at the paddles as a dual clutch transmission would be. But honestly, that's all I have to bring up. If you are lucky enough to buy one, please book yourself track time at the Budh International Circuit or the Chennai racetrack, because this is one incredibly engaging package. And don't forget to make the most of the rear seats to scare your friends silly. The C63 S will come to India in the third quarter of 2015 and is expected to be priced around Rs 1.3 crores ex-showroom. Spectacular. That's pretty much how I would sum up the new C63 S. It's amazing to drive, has a brilliant soundtrack and should prove to be quite comfortable as an everyday drive too. But what really distinguishes the C63 to me is that this car has got character. It's got soul. It may be cutting edge underneath, but it still feels like an old school muscle car. In that sense, the C63 legend lives on.